This episode of the Ottawa Entrepreneurs Podcast is brought to you by Extension Marketing, the marketing agency that specializes in unique needs and budgets of small to medium-sized businesses. They provide turnkey marketing solutions that get results. You can find out more today at extensionmarketing.com. Now here's your host, Pat Whalen.
Thanks, Russ, for taking the time to join us today. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Russ, why don't we start off with you telling us, tell our listeners a bit about yourself and your company.
Well, I'm a married father of two grown children. My wife and I are new empty nesters, actually, and we're very proud. Our kids are, one's finished his college, the other one's in the second year. I started my company, almost 20, it must be 20 years ago. I worked for a wonderful guy. Jerry was my boss. He taught me all about sales and entrepreneurship and how you can create money or, create something from an idea. And I saw him do it. And when the time came, I, left and began GPS to go. And it was an interesting story about, how I heard about that. Jerry was out at a trade show in Las Vegas. Friend of his that he was traveling with had at the time what was a new thing called a TomTom. And Jerry came back and said, I saw this really cool thing. We wanted to find a place to go eat. And, the guy put in restaurant and this little box took us there. Well, long story short, I started selling those part-time on eBay, and then it kind of took off. And before long, I got to the point where I made the decision that I've got enough business going that I'm going to, leave my job, start my own company, and with the help of my friends from the Kiwanis Club supporting me emotionally anyways, the rest is history.
You realize that we've lost some of our younger listeners with the word TomTom, right? And you've
Well, it's gone the way of the typewriter, those things, I guess. And, I'm in Ottawa. I moved to Ottawa in 1990. I'm a proud member of the Kiwanis Club of Ottawa. I've been a Boy Scout leader. I was on the board of directors with the Ottawa Better Business Bureau for 12 years. But hey, I'll take a breath and let you ask the next question.
So can you tell us, GPS to go, what exactly is that?
So our elevator pitch, we help business owners, managers that have people and vehicles on the road, and they really want to have a better understanding of where their people and where their vehicles really go all day. So we've been very, very blessed that we happened to choose this company called Geotab. Geotab is a company in Ontario that makes what became the world's #1 GPS tracking platform for businesses. We sell these little black boxes in essence, and we help businesses of all sizes, whether it's one vehicle or 1,000, right across Canada and the United States. So, we help you really understand where your people are, when did they really start, when did they really finish, why is a 2-hour job taking 3 hours, and we've evolved with Geotab into doing things like complete line of dash cameras, electronic logbooks, tablets, all the applications that big and small companies would use. So, GPS tracking powered by Geotab.
And who's your target audience? You mentioned, companies across North America, but I assume they would have to have a fleet of some kind. And what's kind of the minimum fleet size you would entertain before you would engage with somebody?
One is all it takes.
Wow.
And I often make the joke that even if you have no vehicles, if you'd like to pay a monthly subscription to us, we'll be happy to take your money. It's fine with me. We actually, the factory often gets requests organically from companies out there that are going to the Geotab headquarters through, them having 4.5 million of these things around the world. So those organic requests, they don't sell direct, so they give them to people like myself. So we get a lot of that now. We've been selling their product for a long time. So we resell their product, and we get those requests that way.
So Russ, do you have a territory with that you're representing this company, or how's that work? There's a license.
No, as a reseller for Geotab, anywhere that I can properly service somebody, I can sell the product. So, we've had a customer in South America who wanted to purchase the product, but generally, our customers are right across Canada, right across the United States. The heart and soul of what we sell that allows customers to track their vehicles is a little black box. It's only 2 by 3 inches. It plugs in the onboard diagnostic port of the vehicle. Or for larger trucks, we have an adapter cable. So whether it's the very latest Tesla vehicle, because we can do all the electric vehicles, doesn't matter what brand, where it is, even if it was something from the 50s or 60s, if it has a gasoline or a diesel engine, we have an adapter cable, and we help businesses and fleets of any size.
And obviously, did you start the business here in Ottawa?
So, again, I'm a reseller of Geotab, right? So I'm kind of like your Dodge dealer. I don't make the Dodge car, but I sell, service, train, after sale support, things like that. So I started GPS to go in the basement of my house. And, with the COVID pandemic, I was lucky in a way because just when I started 20 years ago, had no money and started made a website and started making sales calls, and I was in the basement, but I've evolved to being upstairs in one of the spare bedrooms, now turned into the worldwide headquarters, as you can see behind me, GPS to go. We're here in Ottawa, and again, we help people right across North America.
And you mentioned, I want to go back to something that you started off the kind of history with, that you're doing this kind of part-time, and then it got to the point where you realized, okay, this can become a full-time business. What time frame was that from initial thought to earning enough that you could transition over to a full-time business?
Yeah, that was about a year or so. What happened there? Hold on, my phone's ringing. I'm just going to turn it off here.
Sure.
What happened was, when I started this business, I thought to myself, and this is one of the very interesting stories about what happened. I said, who is it that needs to know where their vehicles are? And it just came to me. I said, I'll bet you that the news vehicles, CTV News, they have all these news vans that are out and about. How do they know where to send the vehicle, and how do they know which vehicle is close to a story? I cold called on CTV News in Toronto, even though I'm here in Ottawa. I asked the production manager, who was the right person. He said, I have no idea where my vans are. That's a great idea. When can we meet? And I drove to Toronto, sat down with them and demonstrated what the product did. And they said, we love that idea. We'll get back to you. And 2 weeks later, they sent me a purchase order for $28,000. And with that, I was making about, I don't know, $350 a month. And then I kept calling the local construction companies or landscaping companies, and then CBC heard about it in Toronto. They phoned me up and they bought $10,000 worth of it. And before long, I was doing $5,000-6,000 of gross business a month. And I was just itching to do my own thing. And with 2 credit cards and maybe $1,000 loan from my wife with her government job, that was it. I quit my job and just cold call, and it worked out.
Wow. What a great story. And congratulations, by the way, 20 years in business.
Thank you.
That's tough. That's, not too many people make it that long. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
On that note, Russ, you obviously have learned a lot of lessons along the way here. So we'll shift over to that part of the conversation.
Sure.
Do you have something you'd like to share with our listeners?
So when I started the company, of course, you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to learn. I learned a lot from my old boss, Jerry, when I worked there, but there was reading Success Magazine, reading sales books, listening to cassettes on how to sell, being a member of the Kiwanis Club and all of the wonderful small business owners that are members of that. And they really, mentored me along. A gentleman that I was fortunate to meet, his name is Jim Estel. And Jim Estel is a Canadian billionaire, and he's got that story where he started selling computers out of the back of his station wagon. He wanted to buy one for himself, so he bought two, sold one, and used the profits, and he sold them out of the back of his car. He eventually sold his company for $1 billion. But one of his mantras, right, and I think it's a common thing, but I heard it from him first, was fail often, fail fast, fail cheap. And for business or for entrepreneurs, too often they are so in love with the idea that they go and mortgage their house or invest in all this infrastructure, and they go far too far into it without really understanding, is anyone going to buy what it is I'm trying to sell? So, I have a story of a young man that I was mentoring, and he had gone and bought himself a booth, and he had gone and set himself up with a lease at a shopping center for his booth. He didn't have product in hand yet and a whole other bunch of stuff. And I said, how do you know anyone's going to buy what it is that you're going to sell? Oh, my girlfriend and my friends told me it's cool. Have they bought anything? No. I said, well, again, fail fast, fail often, fail cheap.
Good advice. On that same note, do you feel, this is a debate I'm having lately on the podcast, so I'm gonna put you into this debate. You talk about failing often, so fail often, fail hard, fail cheap. Is that the
fail often, fail fast, and fail cheap? Yeah.
Thank you.
Hopefully it's hard.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I worked that in subconsciously. Yeah. Do you think some people are just not cut out to be entrepreneurs, and they should avoid even going down that route? Not to be negative, but I'm just, I want our listeners to really hear the full story here.
Some people can be their own worst enemy, and maybe they're not going to take good advice or seek help when anyone can do it, I think. One of the big things about running your own business is the world. I like to think of it this way, and I read this in Success Magazine, I think years ago. Go out into the world as a reverse skeptic, that everyone that you meet wants to help you. And for instance, you and I just met, but for instance, if say a young 20-year-old entrepreneur was to bump into you, say you're at a family function, you don't know each other, and he started asking, you would probably give him a million miles of free advice and say, here are the resources that I would recommend. And that person, again, you go out into the world as a reverse skeptic, that people that you meet are going to want to help you. And if you ask for help, you talk to businesses that maybe do something similar to what you do. How did you get there? What's the roadmap? They will share it with you. You're going to be hard pressed to find somebody who's a jerk that's going to tell you and close the door and say, well, I don't want to give you my secrets. Anyone who's doing well, they're probably going to be more than happy to sit down with you and give you all kinds of good guidance.
It's interesting because at times there's a bit of a scarcity mentality, I find, when I'm talking to people, not entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs tend not to think that way. They tend to think that if someone else is doing well, good for them. That means there's money out there to be spent. That means that my idea could work as well. Mm-hmm. I find it's more the people that are not entrepreneurs that have this kind of scarcity mindset. But would you agree?
I think you have a point. If everyone owned their own small business, I don't know whether that, that would work or not, but, business owners, people that are entrepreneurs, I think it's probably the 80-20 rule, right? Probably 80% of the people out there work for somebody else, and 20% maybe are the business owners. I don't have any numbers on that, but yes, when you are an entrepreneur, and again, going back, talking about my old boss, when I started seeing him say, oh, park benches, we need to, show that to the city of Ottawa, which we did way back. And then all of a sudden, money is coming into our bank account because of that idea. Oh, they need these benches. I know where to find them. Let's go and sell. Or, there was a time when we were doing these needle disposal boxes that used to still be around the city for people to drop their sharps off. Nobody had ever done that kind of thing before, but we had the idea. And because we were working with the Parks and Rec people, and they're like, we're discovering needles, and we need something. Do you have an idea? Oh, absolutely. We went back and brainstormed it. And, anyways, there's always new horizons. There's always something new coming down the pipe that, you can turn the idea into money in your bank account. I recently bought myself an account with a thing called Midjourney, and it does AI assisted artwork. And I've made a bunch of beautiful, beautiful pieces of artwork. And I haven't done anything with them, but they're gorgeous. And when you make this, I made them, I own the copyright to them because of the way the system works. I could put those, for instance, onto a website and sell them for people who want paintings. You could do, a fish in a tropical area, or somebody flying an airplane. And I mean, there's a lot of negativity maybe against having AI do artwork, but there's a thousand new ideas every day of how you can turn an idea into money in your bank account.
Would you recommend to someone listening, Russ, that may be considering starting a business, that they follow your path, the path of starting part-time, making sure you're generating enough cash flow before you leave that full-time job?
Many people do that. I mean, there's only so many Mark Zuckerbergs out there with, once in a generation idea. I read again in Success Magazine, a gentleman that was talking about starting businesses or bringing on new products. And he said, I'll have an idea for the following, say, service, and I'll go out and try and sell that door to door to, a bunch of good prospects, and see if people are biting before I execute the rest of it to make it, available. And if nobody's biting, then, there you are. You've failed fast, failed cheap, and move on to the next thing that actually works. So yeah, yes and no. You go to Shark Tank and they love it when people dive in with both feet and they're full time because it shows commitment. But gentleman that I talked about earlier. So if you have an idea for a business, you don't have to go out and spend thousands or even millions of dollars. Proof of concept, talk to some people that are in business. What's the fastest, cheapest, risk-free way that I can test the marketplace to see whether my idea holds water, right? Don't mortgage your house. Don't spend your kids' college fund. This gentleman that I spoke with, he's like, oh, my girlfriend thought that's a great idea and my friends really like it. Well, did they buy anything? Instead of buying, this gentleman was going to did buy a booth and leased space at one of our shopping malls in Ottawa. I said, why don't you take that and put it on a free website, see if people will start to buy it. If you start to get a little bit, then maybe get a table at a local flea market and see if, and it's lower. And then from there, again, I'm full of all kinds of quotes, but my favorite quote about this kind of thing is grow by the inch, not by the mile. Right. So, step by step. And my other favorite quote is build momentum. Every day, another little percent better, a little percent better, build momentum. And you get 1% better every week, maybe. Don't say every day because that's a lot, but 1% maybe every week. And before you know it, the money is flowing into your bank account. You're able to handle the growth. You're able to handle the processes, which are important, right? You have to learn all kinds of, like, how do you use a bank book? Most new entrepreneurs, don't ask me how I know, but they don't know how to use a bank book, and then their papers are just a disaster, and that's a lot to go through as well.
I would even make the argument, Russ, I'm curious if you agree, but sometimes friends and family may not be the best people to talk to about an idea because one of two things could happen. One, they're going to be overly supportive because they don't want to say anything negative, or they may be so afraid that you're going to have success that they may be overly negative. So I would make the argument to listeners, if you're going to run this idea by someone, run it by actual potential consumers of the product or service. And if you can
Yeah,
find an experienced business person, like yourself or myself, to run these ideas by, then you should do that. Would you agree?
I agree. Yeah, that's right. Because family, yeah, what you said is, I think, spot on. You know, family is going to be maybe overly supportive, or you may have those people that don't want to see you succeed. People that have focus groups use that kind of thing for a reason, and those focus groups are not filled with their best friends. So you want to get that honest opinion, because when your bank account is empty and the rent is due, you're going to get some honest opinion then.
Russ, we're almost out of time, but before we went live, you and I were talking about some of the good work you're doing in the community. Can you share that with our listeners, please?
Last year, I guess it was this year we did it. We've done well, and I had set up a bursary with Algonquin College for the Social Innovation Lab. Very pleased to work with them. Pardon me. The Social Innovation Lab, what I like about them, and the reason that I chose that, my wife and I are both alumnus of Algonquin College. I'm very lightly attached as an alumnus. I kind of went there, but my wife graduated from there. But it's a local area, and I love these kids that are in the social entrepreneurship lab, because they're fearless entrepreneurs. A lot of them are first generation new Canadians, and they're fearless. Like, they have nowhere to go but up. They just love it, and they're in there, and they have so many great ideas, and I want to foster that kind of thing. So I set up a bursary with them, and I'll probably give them some more money again next year for that. I'm also a member of Ottawa's Kiwanis Club, wonderful group. And again, I was on the board of directors for the Ottawa BBB. Soon I'll be going possibly to North Bay, because I help them with a small bursary out there as well. They have one for Indigenous youth that are setting up, entrepreneurial plans. So yeah, I try and give back. Again, I go back to the Kiwanis Club. So many wonderful people, and they've taught me, if nothing else, community service is so important.
Thanks, Russ, for doing this. Before we let you go, where can our listeners find out more about your company?
GPS2go.ca. So it's GPSTOGO.ca. I also have the .com as well. And we're here in Ottawa. So yeah, I'd love to help anyone that has a fleet or vehicles and people out there. They want to know what's going on.
Thanks again, Russ. Really appreciate your time.
You're welcome, Pat.
If your company or organization is looking to improve your marketing, go to the Extension Marketing website at extensionmarketing.com and book a discovery call today.